If you want talk, games, and fun all rolled into one, well, you've come to the right place. This is The Game Show, where host Bradley Clarke and his special guests talk about the world of television game and competition shows. But Bradley's guests aren't here to just talk. They came to play a game as well. What will today's topic be? What game does Bradley have planned? There's only one way to find out.
It's time to start the show.
You heard the man. Welcome to The Game Show. And here's your host, the Bradster himself, Bradley Clarke.
I love hearing that intro. Thank you so much, Austin Angelo. I'm Bradley Clarke, and if you want to listen to a talk show where I discuss topics pertaining to the world of television game and competition shows, well, you found the right station. Welcome to The Game Show. And if you're a loyal listener of The Game Show, you know I always love bringing on a special guest to join in on the conversation, as well as play an original game. Well, this episode is no exception. My special guest today has been in the television business for quite some time. He co-hosted a daytime talk show on ABC called Mike and Maddie. He was the audience warm-up guy for TV Land's Hot in Cleveland. But for game show fans, he is best known for hosting the 1998 revival of the blankiest game on television.
Looking for the most fun you've ever had watching a game show? Well, come on in. We've got 5 wonderful stars. Vicki Lawrence. Coolio. Judy Tenuta. Nell Carter. And George Hamilton. 2 great contestants like Gene Marinelli. It all happen. Our host, Michael Berger.
Hello, Nell Carter. Hello, Judy Tenuta.
All here on Match Game.
2018 marks the 45th anniversary of when the classic 1973 edition of Match Game first premiered. Even to this day, Match Game is a fan favorite among game show superfans and is one of the most successful game shows in television history. And here's an early in the episode Brad Fact for you. Brad Fact! The Game Show Network ranked Match Game number 1 on their 2006 summer-long special, The 50 Greatest Game Shows of All Time. And TV Guide ranked Match Game number 4 on its 2013 list of the 60 greatest game shows of all time. Now, you know I love game show anniversaries. So this episode of The Game Show is the first of what I hope to be a few episodes devoted to the Match Game milestone. However, while this episode is certainly devoted to the 1973 Match Game anniversary, I'll mainly be focusing on another Match Game milestone, as 2018 also marks the 20th anniversary of the 1998 version of Match Game, known informally as Match Game 98. Now, I just played the Match Game 98 clip for a reason. And did I mention that my special guest was the host of the show? I wonder who it could be. He is a close friend of Dumb Dora, supports people who play with matches, and had one of the toughest jobs on television, trying to not lose control of a game show to the likes of Vicki Lawrence, Judy Tenuta, and Nell Carter. Joining me on the line to talk about Match Game 98, as well as some of his other game show hosting ventures, is none other than TV's Michael Berger. Michael, welcome to The Game Show.
Thank you, Bradley. In the game show world, I will say correct, select again. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic now that I'm speaking with you. And before we do anything, I want to intro this episode again, but in the style of Paul Boland, the announcer of Match Game 98, so that we can get into the vibe of what we're about to talk about. So without further ado, want to have the most fun you've ever had listening to a talk show? Well, all you need is a radio, a wonderful host like Bradley Clarke, and the guy that makes this episode all happen, my special guest, Michael Berger. All here on The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke.
Well, let's be honest. The line, a wonderful host, is a bit self-serving. Come on, Bradley. You're better than that. That's for someone else to say.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that I followed Paul Boland's script. I always love to be accurate when doing game show intros.
He's a good friend of mine. I'm the godfather of his kid, and when Match Game came about, he was my first choice. But the network and having their own choices and not wanting to play favorites, they auditioned a bunch of people, and they submitted tapes with no one's name attached, and they liked Paul the best. I said, well, I told you. The guy's a terrific impressionist. You want to go to his website, Paul Boland, B-O-L-A-N-D, and he works cruises all over the world, can do 100 voices. And I go, well, if you don't like the one voice, sit back. What do you want? He'll give you another one. So I was so thrilled to be able to work with a friend of mine and rolling onto that set, which we shot at CBS, the same stage that Bob Barker stood on. We got there early and stayed late because you're really stepping on hallowed grounds there.
Hallowed grounds indeed. And we're going to talk more about the studio in which the show is filmed in, as well as chat about Match Game 98. We'll also talk about some of your other hosting ventures over the years. And later on, Michael, for the game of the day, I have created a special Match Game themed game for you to play.
I'm afraid. I'm very afraid.
Every person says that.
By the way, forgive me for interrupting, but remind me to tell you a story of how bad I am at a host during an episode of Match Game. Something went terribly wrong, and it was my fault, and I'm happy to share that with you in a moment.
Perfect. But I first want to start off by asking, can you believe it's been 20 years already since Match Game 98 first premiered?
Yes and no. I've been a fan, as you are, of game shows, so I stay close to it. And you hear the industry saying, oh, they're coming back, and you never know what will stick, what won't. The good ones have always stayed. Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy didn't go anywhere, right? And so they bring back these iconic shows because they're almost bulletproof, regardless of what the host does. I think a great example is Family Feud. Look how many hosts they've had, and they all put their own spin on it, but that format is so good. And you watch Price is Right and thought, well, no one can top Bob. And Drew Carey did it his own way because the format is so darn good. You got to give the concession to times have changed and the culture has changed, and you maybe shouldn't get away with some of the things that are said now. But what used to be done early on was kind of naughty and fun, and now obviously the tone of it has changed. So yeah, I look at it 20 years later and go, boy, the content certainly has changed. What we were afraid to say, they're doing. They're no longer bleeping stuff we would bleep, right?
Yeah, and I find that very interesting because back in the 70s version of Match Game, risque questions and the constant use of one of the always definitive answers, boobs, was very borderline when it came to bleeping. But now it's not even close to the content being said and the content that's allowed to be said, not just on Match Game, but on television in general.
Yeah, but remember, television has changed. The culture has changed. You were looking at television where you couldn't see a toilet on TV. You couldn't see a couple in bed together. So when you would say whoopee or naughty or make love, that was pretty salacious for the time. And I don't want to sound like an old man yelling, get off my lawn, but I sure love the clever, witty side of something without being overt. That, to me, is perfect humor. And when we did Match Game 98, we're right in the middle of the Clinton, Lewinsky, Michael Jackson tabloid headlines. So, you had to put some of those in there, and some of those were great. I mean, I could do a Clinton impression all day long, so we did that. But I try to fight for a better joke, but you still have to make the game playable, too. So you find that perfect combination of a good question that can get a laugh, have a lot of answers, and stump along the way, too.
Of course, now Alec Baldwin hosts a version of Match Game on ABC primetime.
Here's how dumb I am. I thought when Match Game was coming back, I'd get the call. Oh, wait a minute. I just did that. And then I see Alec gets it, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. Let's be clear. You're going to pick this multiple Emmy award-winning, internationally known, handsome actor, Alec Baldwin, over the guy who did it 20 years ago? Okay, play your little games.
Wow. The California drought is so bad. Car wash employees just circle your car and they blank on it. Vaughn, what are they doing to that car when they're circling around that car of yours?
They poop on it.
They poop on it. Ooh.
Well, Vaughn, I'm gonna find you outside, Vaughn. I'm gonna fuck you up, man. Vaughn, I'm gonna find you, I'm gonna fuck you up, man.
How was that gonna make the car clean, Vaughn? What?
You really want to make this a close game, don't you, Vaughn? I mean, you had 4-zip, and then you play the poop card?
Alec, who says that? In a drought?
You want to know something? The great thing was when someone gives an answer like that, we don't need to say anything.
No.
Just let it hang there in the air.
But Alec, I feel like I need to know. I need to know from him, what is he thinking?
Leah, baby, no, you don't.
And it's funny how game shows no longer have that stigma of being a second-class gig. These talented actors said, wait a minute, this is a really fun, cool job, and that's why you got a lot of big names doing them, because they're fun. And between you and me and everybody listening, it's a really easy job to do. There's nothing to it. I'm telling you, we shot 7 a day. We'd do 35, get a bank of them, take a week or two off, come back, do another 35, and we'd shoot our whole season in a couple of months, and then you would wait out whether you're going to get picked up again. And that's just how the game show taping cycles are, because you can do so many quickly. There's not a lot of camera movement. Questions get written, contestants come in, change my clothes, come back out, here we go again.
You talked about Alec Baldwin's current Match Game version, and I always wonder what previous hosts of specific game shows think of new versions of the show they hosted. So, are you a fan of the current version of Match Game, and do you watch it?
I watch it now and then, but, I'd be lying to you if I thought, I saw another way to do that, right? If you sit there as a host. So I happen to like Alec Baldwin. I think he's a really witty guy, and he's got his own stamp on it. So I love the fact that they're letting a personality in that show. Remember, years and years ago, I auditioned for the remake of Let's Make a Deal, and they wanted to put an earpiece in me. And I said, that's not how I work. I can't have somebody talking to me at one time where I'm trying to ad-lib on the other side. I said, you really got to get a host that you trust to do both. And, of course, they've got that.
These people have dressed up to win cars, cash, and amazing prizes, and they've come to the Tropicana Las Vegas. It's time for Let's Make a Deal! Now here's TV's big dealer, Wayne Brady!
Hey, what's going on, folks? Welcome to Let's Make a Deal. I'm Wayne Brady, and these people, these crazy, dressed up, convict, dice-wearing, habit-wearing, pocket troll, magician, Harry Potter lookalikes are all here to win cash and prizes right here on our stage.
Wayne's great at it. He's a very funny guy.
See, one of the things I love about doing this show is that I get to learn things. I had no idea that you auditioned for Let's Make a Deal. I learned something.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff I auditioned for. I was in line to take over The Price is Right, and I toured for a year hosting The Price is Right live, and I bet some of your listeners maybe have come to it. We did Vegas and did Atlantic City and would do Indian casinos, and they'd bring the show in, and you come in and get a chance to play Price.
Price is Right live!
Been here about a month and a half, and I am proud to announce tonight is the 48th night in a row we've been sold out.
Thank you, Atlantic City.
I know you love the show, and I know you want to have some fun, but you really want the stuff, don't you? Yeah.
And the bonus round was tougher since these prizes and these cars had to be bought by the production company. They weren't given, so they had to be a little more difficult to hit because there's no exposure to sell that car. So it's all what they call four-walled, so you pay for it yourself. But the people got the same fun. I did the same thing with Family Feud. I hosted that live.
Mama, look at the man. Mama, come over here. Yeah, I'm back here. First you love me, then you walk away. Don't do me like that. Okay. Stay close. Come on. Are you my boo?
I'm your boo. I don't know.
You know what that means.
What that mean?
What that mean? Mean we're one.
Oh, my
we're all
granddaughter.
that.
I have people say that, but I never knew what it was.
Yeah. He's like we're friends. Yeah. You maybe you're my gal.
Yeah, see, that I understand.
Let's get you $1,000. Come on, here we go.
All I can tell you is that it was the #1 answer. Survey said.
The handful of us that went out and did this were being groomed to step in when the time comes, and ultimately they went another way, and Drew Carey is the one who got that. But there's quite a few of us out there that love games, love the hosting, would still like another chance. A good friend of mine, Ross Schaefer, it's actually a business partner of mine, hosted Match Game before I did.
Get ready to match the stars. From just the 10 of us, Bill Kirchenbauer. Match Game's favorite, Brett Summers. Actor, director, Bone Vivant, Charles Nelson Riley. From Mama's Family, Vicki Lawrence. international ventriloquist, Ron Lucas and friends. And from Dallas, Deborah Tronelli, as we play the all-new star-studded Match Game. And here's the star of Match Game, Ross Schaefer.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Match Game. Thank you all. They're just entirely too kind. Now, would you please say hello to our stars? Hi, stars.
Hi. It turns out we've become great friends and joke about it, and the legacy of that game continues, and the hosts just pop in decade after decade.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk to you about your relationship with Ross Schaefer. He hosted Match Game the last time it was on ABC from 1990 to 1991. Do you talk about the differences between both of your Match Games and maybe why
of course.
They both only lasted a season?
There's a lot of other moving parts to why they don't stay. It's time slots. Just because you get the show and now they're going to be put on the air, people think, oh, the company's going to put it on the air and it's going to stay as long as the viewers watch. Part of that's true. The other part is getting a time slot that you can put the show in. And just because some time slots have opened in a market doesn't mean they've all opened. So while you might be in Boston or Chicago, in other cities, you're on at 3 o'clock in the morning because that other prime spot has not opened up yet. So that will affect your ratings. So you kind of bide your time, and it becomes this puzzle of moving time slots around to fit you in when other shows expire or decide to get pulled. So there's so many parts to getting a show on the air and staying on the air, and we were no exception to that. Ross and I certainly do talk about content, and I happen to be neighbors with Vicki Lawrence, who was on his show and is also on my show. And I had met Vicki through other projects but never worked with her, and she turned out to be just one of the great game players.
Welcome back. I'm with Mandel. It's time to go head-to-head. He's got $500. He's playing for 10 times that amount, or $5,000. He's chosen Vicki as the partner. Let's just get right to it. I want you guys to take this money home. Yes. We need the best response to raging blank. Raging blank. Take a moment. Look at each other. Maybe there's something there. Raging blank.
There's something here.
Vicki, write your answer.
Don't think, right?
Gosh.
No, don't think.
You done, Vic?
I'm done.
She's done. All right. This is for the big money.
No.
Oh, boy. Your best response, Mandel, to raging...
Raging bull.
Raging bull.
Please, Vicki.
Things came into my head, and then I started thinking. Thankfully, I went with my first response.
The biggest surprise was George Hamilton. That guy was so wickedly funny and didn't want anything set up. He wanted to ad-lib the whole thing, didn't even want to say hi in the hall. He wanted it fresh. So the celebrities that you wind up with create this chemistry between you and the host that can certainly help the show as well. I loved them all. George Hamilton was my favorite.
And if my memory serves me right, I believe Vicki Lawrence is the only celebrity to have appeared as a panelist on the 1973 to 1982 edition of Match Game, the 1990 version of Match Game, and of course, your 1998 Match Game. Brad fact.
I think you're right. She's a great game player. All of these celebrities really want you to win. I was told by a great game show producer when I first got into the business, he said, have fun at that front part of the game, but when it gets to the bonus round, you got to shift gears because this money means something to them. This is big stuff, whether it's 500,000, whatever the number is. You can't joke around with it, and you certainly don't want to make a mistake as a host where somebody winds up losing money because you came up with some stupid answer. Most of these actors know that, and they are pulling for you. I don't know any actor, in fact, that's trying to throw you under the bus. We want to see you win.
And Vicki Lawrence certainly did a lot of winning, whether it was on Match Game or Password or Pyramid. She is definitely one of the best.
She is. And a nice hang, too. Fun gal. And here's some trivia. Her husband did Elvis's makeup.
Really?
How about that? On a couple of specials.
Wow, so that's 2 things I've learned so far.
Oh, there's a lot more. You know, on the original Match Game, they drank and smoked, and back in the day, they shot 5. But the fun stuff is to watch it on the Game Show Network and watch it Monday through Friday, because they load those shows in the same order they would have aired, meaning Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you watch Wednesday, they're getting silly, and by Friday, they got Charles Nelson Riley strapped to the chair. That's real. That happened over the course of 6 hours. We shot 7. And we didn't imbibe different time, different rules. But back in the day, they were pretty free to do what they wanted.
Well, speaking of the 70s Match Game, 2018 is the 45th anniversary of that version. Were you a big fan of the show back in the day?
Oh, yeah. You know, back in the day, that was the show you would rush home from school to watch. You know, it was that and the 3:30 movie of the week with Elvis. Those were the 2 go-to appointment television for me. And gosh, there was something about that game that I connected with. I think a lot of us did. But the skill set alone was something that resonated with me. I wanted to do this from the beginning. And when I say beginning, I'm talking elementary school. Elementary school, junior high school. I loved that idea of making people laugh. I liked that idea of not knowing what's coming and kind of ad-libbing around it. And then I saw Johnny Carson being interviewed, and he started out with a game show called Who Do You Trust?
These are $2,000 winners John and Lorraine Burns. Yesterday, when we ran out of time, they were competing with dress designer Lucille Rivers and zoo curator Carl Kaufeld for a salary of $500 a day on Who Do You Trust? Now, here's the star of our show, Johnny Carson.
And then got a talk show. And I said in my small little brain, well, that's what I'll do. I'll get a game show, then I'll get a talk show. And it actually happened. I've had a couple talk shows, I've had a couple game shows. So vision what you want and then go get it. It can happen.
Well, you and me both, because ever since 7 years old, I've wanted to become a game show host.
Well, let me give you the best advice I can give you and anybody listening that wants to be a game show host. And Johnny Carson's quote, I think, sums it up. And it's this: never try to be the best guest on your own show. That's just a phenomenal, profound statement that overlays not just the game show business, but anything we do for a living, especially in a culture now where we're taking selfies and we're posting every moment of our lives. Guess what? It's not about you. You want to be successful? Make it about the other person. A really good host, talk or game, has the ability. Now, this is where we, if you want to use a legal term, we start bifurcating our skill set. Not only do you have to make the contestant shine, you got to run the game, so there's mechanics, but don't go for every laugh. You know, get one and then back out because you got the gig. Let somebody else have their moment. If you can make someone else shine, you have a leg up on anybody else auditioning. That's the greatest piece of advice I'll give you. If you get a chance to go audition, do what you can to make someone else shine and back off yourself. That's what the producers are looking for. He somehow managed to make that show work technically, but look how much fun they're having. And it's not because you're funny. It's because you made them look good. In fact, I'll tell you how I started and how I got into the game show. I was doing stand-up comedy on cruise ships, and at one point during the cruise director comes to me and says, hey, can you fill in and host the passenger talent show for me? I've got other things to do. And by other things to do, this was, the mid-'80s, and it was a verb more than a noun. I said, sure, I'll cover for you, Rick. So I MC this passenger talent show. Picture this. Picture America's Got Talent, but without the talent, on a cruise ship, midnight, coming back from Ensenada, Mexico, with a couple of pops in their belly. I had an 85-year-old woman once tap dance to the Lord's Prayer. I had singers who couldn't sing. I had, you name it, people that were sitting at dinner and thought, well, I should get up on stage. I've always wanted to do that. And they'd get a little 5-minute rehearsal with the band, and then we'd turn them loose. So I say yes to this, and I'm emceeing this talent show, and I realized by spending a few minutes with them, calming them down, having a few laughs before I turned them loose, was another way to host. It was a fun way to kind of realize, oh, you got some power here. Let's see what we can do. It was another avenue of stand-up, but you also gave these people a moment to kind of relax and gather themselves. It was so much fun and successful because the audience roared that I went out and I bought video equipment. I put $2,500 on my credit card, which I didn't have. I had credit cards, I just didn't have $2,500. And I bought this old school 2-piece equipment where you'd have the recorder and then you had the head unit and then camera, and lug this stuff on, and I would put it on the back of the ship on a tripod, and I would videotape myself emceeing, not that I was asked, now I wanted it, every passenger talent show. My first demo tape ever that got to the network was 6 minutes of me emceeing these passenger talent shows. And of course I would cut before their talent. It was all my highlights, right? So this is now sitting in the office at Reg Grundy, who was doing a show for NBC. And the executive's looking at this going, what is this? Because the shot was locked off, and you had this gentle swaying back and forth of the ship, so it was lulling up and down. And then you had this mirror ball behind you. Crowd was on fire. And I had this one old guy grab the mic out of my hand and say, I don't know what you're saying, but apparently it's very funny. Well, the crowd roars, and I look at this guy who looked a bit like Elmer Fudd and just smiled. The executive said to me, the reason you're sitting in my office is that you didn't come over the top with one more line over that guy and you let the guy have his moment. And he said, that's why you're here. That meeting led to me shooting my very first pilot for a game show at NBC. I parked 6 spots down from Carson. I met him, and I met Gregory Peck that night shooting my little show, which actually never went anywhere. But it was the beginning of my career, all from listening and making somebody else look good. How's that for a long-winded answer to the beginning of my career?
Well, that pilot was Matchmates. And
oh, my, you're out of your mind. That's crazy. How did you know that?
I'm a very frequent viewer of Wink Martindale's YouTube channel, Wink's Vault.
Sure.
And the pilot is up there, and I know a thing or two about the genre.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well done. Well done.
These are the champs, Rory and Al Weaver. These are the challengers, Sandy and Kurt Moore. The couple that knows each other best will win a chance at our jackpot that today stands at $10,000 here on Matchmake. And now, here's our host, Michael Berger.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks very much, and welcome to Matchmates.
And I actually thought that the game itself was not bad. I'm a big fan of puzzle word games, so
sure.
I found it fascinating. And that was a Reg Grundy production, and so was Sale of the Century. And the bonus round from Matchmates transformed into the final bonus round they ever used on Sale of the Century.
All right, you're out of control. I need you to step away from the microphone and take a nap. You know too much. That's incredible. I remember walking out on that set, and I was standing backstage, and I believe it was Johnny Olson. Of course, you can correct me if I'm wrong, was the announcer. And he said, hey, don't worry about it. He goes, you make a mistake, we'll do it again. I mean, this legend broadcaster saying, hey, don't worry about it. That's pretty cool.
The announcer actually was Gene Wood, not Johnny Olson, but Gene Wood definitely also fits the bill of a legendary broadcaster and legendary game show announcer. So that's very cool that he said that to you. Brad fact.
Now, the show, I don't know if you know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, that show didn't get picked up because at that moment, NBC decided to shift gears and put reruns of Family Ties on in the morning. They started to change their view of games, and we just happened to be that crossover moment where, after shopping it for a while, Brian Franz and Jake Talbert, who were the presidents of daytime television, said, when we actually finished the pilot, that moment said, congrats, looks like you got another one on the air. It looked like it was going to just sail through. There was this pushback a little bit of, well, maybe we've had our fun with games. Apparently, we can get the rights to Family Ties, and maybe the numbers were better or whatever, and that's what went in on our spot instead of us. That's the rest of that story.
Well, Matchmates may not have sold, but at least you still had the opportunity to host game shows as part of your career.
How about this? So I'm doing stand-up on ships, right? I get this pilot, and this is so early in the career where I hadn't made no effort at any of this, and with one videotape, I get a show on the air. I'm thinking, there's nothing to this business. What are you folks talking about? This all happened within months. The show doesn't go, but Reg Grundy said, hey, we like what you're doing. We're going to see if we're going to develop something for you. And they put me on retainer for a year, paying me, which was just astounding to me that anybody would pay me a little money not to work in the game genre. I could still do stand-up and whatever. So my fondness for Reg Grundy, Bob Noah, Bob Crystal, those are the people involved. Bob Noah's still with us. Reg Grundy has passed. But those are names that I met early on that showed me, wow, this is a great business to be in. There's great people in it. Somebody I met early on was Harry Friedman. Harry is the executive producer of Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. He produced another show I had called Personals. These are the Mount Rushmore of people in the game show business, as nice and honest and friendly and giving as they come.
And thankfully to these people, yourself and many more, game shows are still going strong today.
Yeah, they'll never go away. They will cycle in and out. But, you know, a lot of shows get developed overseas, and they get test marketed there. They adopt, as you know, they'll adopt a format and bring it over. So they're a little bit more liberal over there. There was a Japanese game show that they had to bring the lawyers in over here because what they were doing over there, you know, almost killed these contestants. And they said, you do that here, you're going to get lawsuits left and right. The show is called Storm the Castle. It's one of the first big event-type game shows, like video arcade game shows where you're running through stunts, like Ninja Warrior, that kind of stuff. I hosted that.
Families are running for the challenge of their lives. the exciting, one-of-a-kind Storm the Castle. And now, here are your hosts, Michael Berger and Nellie Galan.
Hi, folks, and welcome to Storm the Castle. Gathered around us here are 150 competitors. These are not professional athletes.
No, they're real families. Mom, dad, children, nephews, and nieces. Ordinary people getting ready to do extraordinary things.
And it's all going to happen here over this incredible 15-acre site.
We did some specials, but it never made it to series.
Well, you were talking about how there's a lot of test marketing that happens overseas. Well, the 80s version of Sale of the Century actually began in Australia. There was the version from the late 60s to the early 70s, most notably hosted by Joe Garagiola, but that was a different format altogether. However, the version of Sale of the Century that most people remember is originally from the land down under. Brad fact!
That's right. It's an Aussie brand. Well, Reg was bi-coastal and would spend time here and back in Australia and loved games, loved the format. He was a guy responsible. That really was the heyday of game shows.
Yeah, the 70s and 80s are my favorite times.
No, although you were too young to even experience them, that's nice to still honor the past there.
Well, I'm glad through Game Show Network and Buzzer and YouTube now. I mean, YouTube's jam-packed with all this stuff. That's how I get most of my knowledge of game shows, YouTube.
Well, it's you, and of course you know John Ritchie, a mutual friend of ours, another young guy that's keeping this not only alive, but has encyclopedic knowledge of this to bring forward now. And, you know, great games still come out of great structure. And there's got to be structure. There's got to be an element of challenge there. But it's a little more difficult to create these games than one would think. You know, Monopoly is probably the most famous game in the world, and they've tried many times, and it actually got on the air but not long, because it's a really boring game to watch. So not every great game makes a good TV show.
Monopoly's had a couple of runs. You had the Merv Griffin one in the summer of 1990 after Super Jeopardy.
I remember I auditioned for it. Go ahead.
Oh, really? I didn't know that either.
Sure. Yeah, they don't write about the stuff you don't get.
Well, that was interesting because Peter Tamarkin did the pilot, and then they went with a Jeopardy contestant as the host. Brad fact.
Yeah, and they went with a place kicker for Wheel of Fortune, Ralph Bernershka.
Right, yeah, and then Bob Goen took over after that. Brad fact.
Bob's a good friend of mine. For those that know hosts, what you don't know, I would play poker with him once a week, and wickedly funny guy. Funnier than you can imagine. You didn't see that on Entertainment Tonight, but if you ever meet Bob Goen in person, ask him to do his Ed Sullivan impression for you. He'll put you on the floor. He just finished a 6-year radio job in Cincinnati at KWARM, W-A-R-M, Warm, Cincinnati.
One of my favorite moments of his is when he appeared on the Bob Eubanks version of Card Sharks during Kids Week to promote his new game show, Blackout.
If you would deal the cards from the top, we'll get our 2 Card Sharks. It's Young People's Week on our show, and here come our 2 young people. That's no young person.
Well,
That's my friend Bob Goen. And how tall are you, Robert?
4'1".
4'1".
Yeah, just a glandular problem.
Yes. Would you please come down here and talk to me for just a moment? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bob Goen, and Bob has a new show that's coming on CBS, when, January what?
4th.
January 4th.
This Monday.
Now, what time will it be on?
9 a.m.
9 a.m., and in the East Coast?
What is it? I always
10
say 10 a.m. in the East.
Yeah, so you'll be on right before
8
Card Sharks.
Mountain time. Yeah, I'm on right before you every day.
And the
Monday
show's
through
called?
Friday. It's called Blackout.
Blackout.
Yeah, and
All right.
we are having a ball. Yeah.
Okay.
I really think it's a great show. I really think you're going to enjoy it.
And your name is Bob?
Goen.
And you spell your Bob with one O, and I spell mine with 2. And you're much younger than me, aren't you? Yes. Leave.
The only
See, I'm younger than Barker.
Is that right?
Yeah. So there's 3 Bobs in the morning, and we start with the young guy, and then the best-looking guy, and then...
We get progressively old as the day goes on.
No, you said that because they get mad at me when I say that. Thank you. Good luck to you, man.
Bob, thank you
Blackout,
very
beginning
much.
January 4th.
Let's see it.
Bob Goen.
Gosh. Well, okay. I think I'll be careful what I say around you. You're going to cross-check. This is beautiful. It's like going through TSA with you, but in the game show world.
Well, you know, you teach me a few things, I teach you a few things.
Hey, again, you're bringing it on to the next generation. I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much. That truly means a lot to me. And before you get me blushing anymore, let's get back to talking about Match Game. I'm always fascinated when they bring back shows. I always love seeing how they change the format, how they change the rules, and, you know, compare and contrast. That's what I live for. Compare and contrast of revivals.
Well, you got to get out more, but I see what you're saying.
So when you found out that they were changing the format a bit for your Match Game to 5 celebrities, and instead of trying to get just 5 matches, you would get points, and there was double points in the second round.
Do you know why they did 5 instead of 6?
No, and that's what I was going to ask you.
Commercial. There's less time to do a show now than there was back in the day. So The shows are shorter because they need to put another commercial break in there, so one less contestant made the show shorter. So you came in at 22:08, I think was the time we had to hit, 22 minutes, 8 seconds, because there was another spot for commercial. Show had to be shorter, couldn't be as long. So you need more advertising time.
Now they have 6, but they have the hour long.
Correct. And then the celebs, that's a whole nother level of casting. You know, you put your list together of who you want, and then you get the note coming back saying, oh, yeah, Tom Cruise doesn't want to do it. And then you just work your way across the board of who might be a nice group. And then those people are paid. They're not paid scale. They're paid a fee, a nice fee, to be celebrities on your show.
Of course, Vicki Lawrence was a regular, Judy Tenuta, Nell Carter,
and George Hamilton, and then we float that other spot for a soap opera star, somebody that would come through, an actress du jour.
Now, do you think that the change of the format was a reason why maybe people didn't catch on to it?
Well, no, structurally, I thought the show was okay, but you got to know the mechanics of how a show is sold and the marketplace it's in and the amount of time they can give it to find these time slots. And if you're not in a top 20 market, then your rating number is fractional, which aggregates into a whole number. And, you know, some cities, I think Chicago was great for us, Detroit was great for us, but we were missing a couple of big cities that we were like planes stacked over O'Hare waiting to take a time slot, but you had to stick around long enough. So your numbers did have to do something, so it's not completely void of ratings importance. But you don't start off being in all the markets you want to be, so the show struggles to find a footing. And then a powerhouse like Fremantle has a library of shows they can simply place in. And when Family Feud became available with Louis Anderson, I believe was the setup, they were saying to station managers, well, you know, we can put this one in. This will work. So it was something fresh, some fresh meat to pop into that slot. There's more than just meets the eye to keep a show on the air than ratings. Some markets, I should say, general managers of stations will give it a chance, give it another run. But you got to play nice. Not everybody will do that. And some of these stations don't have the ability, because they're answering to people, to keep a show on the air as much as they might like it. When we went off the air, there were some stations that were very unhappy because we were doing well. But it's a lot of pieces in that puzzle. What I didn't like about Match Game initially was the set. I walked on it, they were building it, and it looked like some bad South Beach exploded campfire. None of it looked right to me. And I said, wow, I wanted a little classier look, and that's just what it wound up with. And, you know, the last thing they're going to do is change a set when a show hasn't even been on yet. Let's get the show on the air, and then we get a second, third, fourth, fifth season, and we'll figure that out. I said, okay. So, you know how that story ends.
Was there ever any talks of bringing back the Star Wheel?
No, you know, there were so many questions about what to change, not to change, what to bring in, the limits of time, how many questions to ask. You know, I went and did a lot of real-world, man-on-the-street research. You know, we played the game live quite a bit, trying to find the right tone, and wound up with what we got.
At the White House, the president fell out the window. He wasn't hurt because he landed on his blank.
Girlfriend.
Head.
Butt.
Ass.
Hillary.
I don't think we can top that.
I said hair.
Said gold-plated banana.
Campaign donations. Is this guy politically correct? We surveyed a bunch of people and got their best answer to House of Blues. I thought you were going to say that one.
House of Sway.
Pain. Pain. You want to talk about your childhood, both of you?
How about the House of Ill Repute?
It's pretty difficult to write those questions and write those headings, you know, that lead to a joke, lead to a question. There's a team of writers doing that. Constant struggle to make what we hoped was an interesting, funny question. The jingle went back and forth. There was revamps on that. Here's something your fans will love to know. When the show got green lit, the idea was to have Gene Rayburn hand the microphone to me as a way of passing the baton. And they went and met with him, and he elected not to do it. It didn't look like it would flatter him and us at the time, so they passed on it.
When you first heard that Gene Rayburn might be coming onto the show to pass the microphone to you, did you get excited? Because I know I certainly would.
Yeah, I mean, I would love the class and the approval of that. I thought it would be a nice moment, but I don't think he was strong enough at the time to pass, and the last thing you want to do is make him look anything other than how we remember him. You wanted a flattering moment, and it probably wouldn't have been that.
Right, and unfortunately he passed the next year in 99.
Yeah.
We started talking about this before. So Match Game 98 was filmed at CBS Television City in Hollywood at Studio 33, which is now the Bob Barker Studio, and actually was named the Bob Barker Studio in 1998, March 11th, 1998, to celebrate The Price is Right's 5,000th episode.
But there's a special event today in honor of your 26 years here at CBS and in celebration of your 5,000th episode of The Price is Right. All of us at CBS would like to express our congratulations by officially renaming this historic stage the Bob Barker Studio.
Thank you very much. This is one of the nicest things that's ever happened.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you. All right, now, I want you to listen very carefully to what I have to say. Here is the first item up for bids in the Bob Barker Studio.
And it was also the site of the original Match Game, so you were standing on the same floor as Gene Rayburn was hosting that show for 9 years.
Yeah, I had been over there for other shows. I did sitcom warm-up and have been guest stars on other things, so familiar with the set. However, when you're on the set and you see the back of that facade, you see the plywood, and then you see your name and Match Game, that's when it hits you. Oh, my gosh, this is happening. And like I said, there was no hurry to get out of there. You had access to wander, see the sights, hang out. It was pretty cool. Visit Young and the Restless, shot there, of course, Price. It was pretty heady times.
Is there an aura that you feel stepping onto that stage? A lot of great shows besides Match Game and Price is Right. Card Sharks with Bob Eubanks filmed on that same stage.
Yeah, you honor the past. You don't copy it, but you embrace it, and then you hopefully put your spin on it. So, yeah, you certainly respect those that came before you. You bet. And you probably know this, but maybe your listeners don't. When we shot 7, we had 2 audiences, so we would shoot 4, take a lunch break, and then do 3. And so the audiences flipped on that break. We shot the shows almost in real time, so there was no reason to stop. I was a big fan of leaving mistakes in, and you can to a certain extent as long as it doesn't change the outcome of the game. So none of us wanted to stop if we didn't have to. So what you saw was pretty close to what we shot, except for the time now. I'll go around, literally run to my dressing room, put on a different suit. All 7 suits, by the way, were laid out there. So just jump in, another set of clothes, get the contestants wired, mic'd up, load the questions in the little box. Here we go.
You mentioned before about the theme song, and another element of Match Game 98 that I found interesting was that the main theme song was different from the 70s version, but the 70s writing music was used when the celebrities wrote down their answers.
Yeah, there was a whole other division that did that. Again, I was the guy that asked the questions and let them handle the minutia, although night before I'd get the questions and go through them, and there'd always be more than we need, and I'd select the ones I liked. I'd get on the phone to the producer, and we'd talk it through and figure out which ones kind of felt right, that laid in nice, and you really want an arc to them as well.
Did you ever pitch or write any questions yourself?
Oh, sure. I couldn't tell you which ones, but yeah. Speaking of questions, let me get this in before we run out of time, too, because you'll love this story. It's the bonus round. I think it's Vicki Lawrence and contestant me, and I don't know, whatever the money was. And I say, here's the question. I need your best response to blank house. That's the setup, right?
Right.
Here's what I say. Good luck, everybody. Okay, here we go. I need your best response to White House. And I hear, cut. I go, what? I said, well, you just said white. I go, what do you mean I said white? I so much wanted them to win in my head. I was hoping they would write white, thinking that was maybe a good answer. And I said it out loud. We had to throw the question out, obviously, because I gave the answer away. And I went on and going, by the way, how easy is this game when the host gives you the answer? This is a whole new show. Part of that, I think, is still in that episode because they know how much I like goofing on myself when I make a mistake.
Well, speaking of the bonus round, I'm curious to know, the top prize was $5,000. Now, the top prize in the 70s was $5,000 as well. So going into production of Match Game 98, were you surprised that the budget was a bit low, especially seeing that the top prize was the same from 25 years prior?
You know, the budgets of those shows were different. When a show starts out, it really is on a shoestring. And you'd say, well, how come it's not $50,000? Well, that money comes from somewhere. That $5,000 top prize was all that could be given away based on that number it cost to produce X number of shows. So the possibility, if the show had gone longer, more seasons, the prize would go up. But at that moment, that was bare bones maximum they can give away.
Was there ever any talks about maybe incorporating returning champions?
Well, that's a good question. I guess you'd have to ask me if I was in year 3 or 4. There's plenty of contestants to choose from in that first batch. So things have a tendency to evolve and grow as they find its footing. But as you aptly noted, you don't get that much out of one season.
Right. These are just the things that I notice.
Yeah. Well, you're probably not alone. I'm sure there's others that watch that closely as well.
So before Match Game, from 96 to 97, you hosted the new Family Challenge on the Family Channel, which is now Freeform.
From Universal Studios, home of the E.T. Adventure, it's the new Family Challenge. Get ready to encounter the wacky world of madness and mayhem as our families compete for the Family Challenge Cup. So let's get ready for a big family challenge. Welcome for our host, Michael Berger.
For me? For me? Thank you. Very nice. Very nice of you. You don't have to do that. Glad you did, but thanks. Thanks. Welcome to the Family Challenge. We have a lot of fun on this show. If you are a if you're a first-time viewer to the show, I should explain, it's two families that come out and do battle. Right? The Hatfields and McCoys. You know, they get at it. They start out really innocent, really harmless, and by the end, pies are thrown, and the kids sort of reevaluate the parents and vice versa. Bottom line is a lot of fun, a lot of gifts, a lot of prizes, but the thing they battle for, it's that Family Challenge Cup. One family today takes home the Family Challenge Cup, and today it is being held by Laura Mazzola from Garden Grove, California.
Unfortunately, you had to step in for Ray Combs, who committed suicide after doing that show for a year.
He was wildly ill. He was in a terrible car accident and was in so much pain. It's nothing to be flip about for anybody listening, casually thinking, oh, he just killed himself. The poor guy had a tragic end of his life there, so he was in immense pain when he killed himself. The passing of him opened up this spot, and at the time, I was popping in over at Home and Family, which is on the same lot. I wound up taking that show over from Chuck Woolery, another game show reference, and then they liked me and said, hey, why don't you host Family Challenge? And that was 1 hour. I think we did 65 of those. That was fun.
Did you like having the opportunity on a television game show to not have to wear a suit and tie, but you got to wear short sleeves and shorts?
Well, no. You know why? Because it was outdoors in Universal City, 115, 120 degrees on the set. It was not a joy, no. I made a deal to wear those Hawaiian shirts, the Rain Spooner shirts, and I went to the guy that sells those and said, hey, I'm going to be on the air, and we got a trade out, they call it, for those shirts, and I think I've got 50 of them in my closet. I got to keep them. But it was a messy show. It was a lot going on, and it was not the convenient putting on a nice Bernini suit inside CBS air-conditioned halls. This was outdoors in tough conditions, and here's a great piece of trivia for anybody that cares. That was in a stadium. I forgot what it was called. It was some character stadium at Universal. They named the amphitheater. It was called something. It wouldn't be Mickey Mouse. That's the wrong company, but you get the idea. Well, one day, for some crazy reason, the park was just slammed, and they filled the stadium, and it was a beautiful shot. And so from that moment on, whenever they took a wide shot, it was just that one day, but the seats were filled. And when they do the closer shots, it was the new day with another audience.
See, another thing I'm learning. Now, I am a big fan of cooking competition shows.
Oh, you want to talk about Iron Chef?
Right. So I've been watching Iron Chef for years, and I can still remember the first time I watched Iron Chef with my father. It was Battle Frozen Pea.
Today's secret ingredient is frozen peas.
So one day I was casually trying to increase my cooking competition show knowledge by reading the Iron Chef America Wikipedia page. And at the top of the article, a show called Iron Chef USA was mentioned. Now, at the time, I had no idea what Iron Chef USA was, so I click on it, and my mind was blown. 3 episodes were made, and it was filmed in Las Vegas.
At the MGM Grand Arena.
Right, this was big time.
Well, what they wanted to do is take wrestling and tie it into cooking, and they had this huge vision of it. And, of course, it was a much smaller format, as you know now, with Alton Brown doing it. It's a different animal than what they had proposed. But we went in that theater and shot them, and it was a blast.
And William Shatner was the chairman. Now, when I read the whole thing, I'm like, I gotta see if there's a video of this. And I go on YouTube, where I get most of my knowledge, and I watch Iron Chef USA. It was so intriguing to watch, knowing the show now, and, you know, knowing how big it is, not only here, but how big it was in Japan.
And that's where they got the idea. Yeah, Larry Thompson was the executive producer of it and brought it over and then brought me in. And I said, look, Larry, I don't know that much about cooking. And he goes, no, he says, you'll be the color commentary guy. And they hired Anthony Dias Blue, who was a food and wine editor for Bon Appetit. He goes, you'll sit next to him. It'll be like Monday Night Football. You'll wear the jackets, and you just do stream of consciousness. Just say what's on your mind. So, well, I can do that. That was my fun of it. I just was playing the every guy going, hey, what's that? And he'd say, well, that's the sperm of a sea urchin. And he's making a paste from that in a remoulade. So, well, let me stop you there. I don't want to hear that anymore. So I heard things I never knew about cooking.
In my time, I have traveled the globe in search of the finest cuisine mankind has to offer.
On this odyssey, I secretly chose 4 master chefs whose artistic creations surpass those of all others. They are my Iron Chefs, invincible men of culinary skill. Each is an expert in a different style of cooking, and each will take on challengers who dare to enter a kitchen arena. Iron Chef American, Iron Chef French, Iron Chef Italian, and Iron Chef Asian. What inspiration will each challenger bring? How will the Iron Chefs fight back? Through the heat of battle, we will discover the truth and determine whose cuisine will reign supreme. Turn up the heat.
From the MGM Grand Garden Arena in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, welcome to Iron Chef USA Showdown in Las Vegas.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the illustrious and imposing kitchen arena. I'm Michael Berger. This is Anthony Dyers-Blue, one of the foremost authorities on food and restaurants working today. We got a big showdown tonight. 2 of the most highly skilled chefs in the world are going to go toe-to-toe with all of America watching.
So when I was watching this Iron Chef, I'm saying to myself, you had William Shatner, and you had Michael Berger, of course, from Match Game. And this didn't go anywhere? It only lasted 3
Oh, that's
episodes.
kind of you. It was for UPN at the time, which became Fox. And I remember we premiered it. It was during an NBA playoff, and the numbers were still pretty good. But I think the size and scope of it, the vision they had of making this a stadium event of cooking, they were a little ahead of their time of what this could be. And they looked at the numbers. They thought a scaled-down version of it for a very niche audience, i.e. Food Network, those weren't popular back then. They were just kind of coming into their own. They changed the path of what this show initially was going to be and did a smaller, budgeted, manageable, niche version with Alton Brown, who obviously knows his food. So they didn't need me for that.
Well, it's interesting when you said you were hoping that you'd get the call for the new Match Game. Were you hoping that you might get the call for the new Iron Chef?
No, I knew that there's people that know a lot more about food and that arena than I do, and that was not on their radar or mine. What a lot of stations will do, what a lot of networks will do, is they will pull from their own stable of talent. They will vertically integrate and take somebody that's from one of their successful shows and put them in as a host of a new game show. That's happened quite a bit because I was up for a show and did everything but the pilot, and then the pilot, they went with Neil Patrick Harris. But I did all of the groundwork. I did all of the rehearsals. I did the run-through, and then when Neil Patrick became available and the network got involved, and he said yes to an astounding sum, which was more than I needed, they went with him, and the show ultimately didn't make it. I think it was called Going for the Gold, which was a French show, but didn't make it here.
The name sounds familiar.
No, you've probably run across it somewhere in your sleep when you're reading your game show homework.
Well, it's funny because when people tell me, oh, what do you study? I say, I study game showology.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I'll say it again. I'm proud of you. I want to just keep this going because you will inspire others, and this knowledge has to come from somewhere, right?
It's from years of watching and more watching and, reading.
I love it.
And watching people like you.
Well, I'm glad I could inspire in some way, shape, or form because I'm right there with you. I wanted to do it, and I thought it was the best skill set for my talent. I can be funny. I think I can host, make somebody else look good. I said, come on. This is kind of what I'm doing in the class. In college I was doing this in the classroom, and now somebody's going to pay me to do it? Heck yes.
And even if it's people that I know aren't as knowledgeable or passionate like me, which is about 97%, 98% of the people, but I just love spreading the knowledge.
Good for you.
I think it's just fascinating.
Like I said, I'm proud of you.
It also keeps my mind remembering all the facts that I have in it.
Sure. Well, you got them. Yeah, I'm impressed. I don't think I met anybody with the breadth of your knowledge. Maybe John Ritchie, this mutual friend of ours, but I'd say you're a close second.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Now I'm so curious. What other shows did you host a pilot for?
Oh, gosh, there have been so many. Late Night Lotto was one, and that was going to be a 3-time zone giveaway game where you call in, and it was really before the technology could support it. Another show I did called Phone Tag, did a pilot of that, same kind of idea where you call in and win in 3-time zones. And then there are shows that you kind of develop. Slingo was a game that I wound up hosting. We shot a pilot, didn't go anywhere, but it was a very successful online game. I'm completely fine with this, and it's just one of those things in life. My mom died 2 days before I shot the pilot, and I'm going through the development process and dealing with my mom's passing. Boy, it was a really interesting time because as much as, I love working, here's Mom's passing, and at the same time, my mom was such a fan of what I did. She was such a supporting force in my life that this is what she would want me to do. So it was this really odd, I'm going to go do it for you, Mom, kind of feeling against just the sheer raw emotion of losing your mom. It's a really unique time.
Well, I'm fortunate and lucky to have parents that support what I do, and even though I might drive them crazy with some of my game creations, I know that they want me to succeed with them. And speaking of game creations, Michael, it is now time for my favorite portion of the game show, and as I always say when I have an accomplished game show host on the line with me, it's always more special when that is the case because I get to practice my game show hosting skills with a true television professional. It is time for the game of the day.
Game of the day.
Now, I did say this was a match game themed game, so I wanted to title the game in the style of the previous incarnations of the show. So back in 1975 and running until 1981, there was a weekly syndicated nighttime version of Match Game, appropriately titled Match Game PM. Well, since we're on the radio right now and WRHU is on the FM dial, I thought it would be cute and clever on my part to name today's game of the day Match Game FM. So that's what I did. Michael, get ready to fill in some blanks because you're going to play Match Game FM. Match Game FM. And here's how the game works. All the questions used during Match Game FM will be actual questions from Match Game 98. And you'll have 2 rounds to score a total of 5 matches to win. Now, during both rounds, I'll give you the choice of 2 categories, each of which corresponds with a question. After choosing your category, I'll read the question, and like every Match Game fan knows, your job is to fill in the blank with an answer you think will match the most celebrities. Now, after giving your response, I'll reveal what the celebrities filling in that blank 20 years ago said, and for every match, you'll score a point. And once again, you need 5 matches, or 5 points, to win the game. So those are all the rules. Michael, are you ready to play a little role reversal and become a Match Game contestant?
Let's do it.
Well, I'm going to channel my inner Johnny Olsen as I say, get ready to match the stars as we play the star-studded, no-money Match Game FM. And now, here's the star of Match Game FM, Bradley Clarke. For game show continuity, I just had to complete that intro, so I hope you didn't mind. All right, let's begin with round 1. Now remember, the goal is to get to 5 points by the end of the second round, and here are your first 2 categories you get to choose from, Michael. Sports in your shorts, or suit yourself, and that's suture, S-U-T-U-R-E.
Suit yourself.
Suit yourself it is, and the celebrities are Vicki Lawrence, Christoph St. John, Judy Tenuta, Nell Carter, and your favorite, George Hamilton.
Let's do it.
All right, here comes the question. Keith said, "Boy, did I go to a cheap hospital. Not only did I have to share my room with 3 other people, I had to share my blank." Keith said, "Boy, did I go to a cheap hospital. Not only did I have to share my room with 3 other people, I had to share my blank." All right, Michael, what do you say? What did Keith have to share in this cheap hospital?
It's between bedpan and catheter. I bet catheter's too difficult of a word. I'll say bedpan.
You're going to say bedpan, all right. Vicki Lawrence said, bedpan, you got a point.
Oh, my gosh, okay.
And next we have Christoph St. John, who also said bedpan. You have 2 matches, and you're going to sweep the top line because Judy Tenuta said bedpan as well. You have 3 points. Unfortunately, Nell Carter said stitches.
Idiot, go ahead.
And George Hamilton said operation, so no match with him.
Okay, that's funny.
Excellent first round, Michael. You have 3 points.
I'm not happy about playing for a lousy $5,000, but go ahead.
It's time for round 2, and here are your 2 categories to choose from. Furby's a jolly good fellow, or you twin some, you lose some.
Twin some, lose some.
You twin some, you lose some. Sounds like a good choice to me. Remember, you only need 2 more matches to win. And let's see. Vicki Lawrence, John Sally, Judy Tenuta, Nell Carter, and Bobby Collins are the ones you're trying to match.
Oh, gosh. Very funny comic, Bobby.
Indeed he is. And here comes the question. Siamese twins Ted and Ed are really amazing.
How amazing are they?
One eats and the other blanks.
Oh, gosh.
Siamese twins Ted and Ed are really amazing. One eats and the other blanks. All right, Michael, what do you say? When Ted eats, what does Ed do?
Well, so I'll say poops.
You're going to say poops. Very good. I think you might have just found the definitive answer.
By the way, what kind of show am I creating here? Poops and bedpans? I'm sorry.
Well, it is Match Game.
That's right. It's Match Game 98, yes.
All right, let's see. Vicki Lawrence said, poops. That takes you to 4 points. You need one more to win.
Please, make it happen.
John Sally said, oh, John Sally didn't say poop. He said poo-poo. So you got it!
Oh, we got it. That's a match. We went to the judges. Thumbs are up. Doggone it. Let's get me back on the air. Come on now.
And by the way, Judy Tenuta and Nell Carter both said poop. Bobby Collins said sleeps.
Well, I apologize for everybody listening. Those questions should have been much better written back in the day, but like I said, I just showed up in a nice suit.
But congratulations, you won Match Game FM.
This was great.
Well, I'm so glad you enjoyed playing that game. I had so much fun hosting it for you. And that was the game of the day, Match Game FM. Match Game FM. Well, Michael, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking the time today to join me on the game show to chat about Match Game 98, as well as your other game show hosting ventures. And I truly hope that one day I'll be watching you yet again on television hosting a game show.
Well, I'm proud of you for doing your homework. I've done a lot of these interviews, and you get people that just read your bio and think that's enough. And clearly, you not only know what you're talking about, you like what you're talking about. So I think the game show world is in good hands with people like you at the front of the ship. So keep doing the good work.
Well, Michael, that truly means the world to me. Thank you so much for saying that. And thank you for teaching me a few things about game shows, and I hope you learned a few things from me about game shows.
No, I don't doubt. If I start losing my memory, I'm going to call you and say, hey, what was that question 20 years ago? And I know you'll have an answer for me.
Well, I do hope I have an answer for you. And Michael, of course, you are always welcome back onto the game show as my special guest if you want to play some more games or if you just want to chat some more about the game show genre.
I'll talk to you again.
Awesome. All right, Michael, take care, and thank you once again for coming onto the game show.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the game show. My thanks to Match Game 98 host Michael Berger for being my special guest. You know, I really had a blanking great time talking with you today. Now, if you're like me and want to listen to this blanking great episode of the game show again, or if you want to listen to my other blanking great episodes of the game show, all you have to do is log on to www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke. That's BRADLEY_CLARKE/sets/the game show. That's www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke. That's BRADLEY_CLARKE/sets/the game show. Plus, don't forget to like The Game Show Starring Bradley Clarke on Facebook and follow The Game Show Starring Bradley Clarke on Twitter using the handle @TheGameShowBC and #TheGameShow. But of course, be sure to tune in next time for another blanking great episode of The Talk Show, all about the world of television game and competition shows, The Game Show. I'm Bradley Clarke, the Bradster, and I've got to go see what trouble Weird Willie has gotten himself into. Bye for now. The Alec Baldwin Match Game clip is courtesy of the ABC Television Network.
This edition of The Game Show was created and produced by Bradley Clarke and was recorded at the WRHU studios. This is Austin Angelo speaking.
The Game Show is a Bradley Clarke production. Get your game on.